everyone, I'm Mariana, and for this week on Wednesday, I'm going to give you 5 reasons why you should put aside how much cannibalism grosses you out and watch Raw. If you haven't seen the trailers and don't know what I'm talking about, Raw is essentially a coming-of-age story about this girl, Justine, who follows in the footsteps of her whole family and is starting veterinary school. As part of a hazing ritual, she is forced to eat a raw rabbit kidney, even though she's a vegetarian, and this experience starts changing her. The first thing I want to mention is that this film is cannibalism done right. I am not a big fan of this subgenre, but I have to say, Raw is actually currently my favorite film of 2017, and a lot of it has to do with the approach the writer and director Julia Ducournau took here, which, by the way, this is her first feature film, and that is pretty mind-blowing. I can't wait to see what she does next. So in her interviews, she often talks about how cannibals in film are usually referred to and shown as they. They are this weird cluster that is defined by their disturbing taste in food, and they aren't really people, even though cannibals actually exist in real life. So what she wanted to focus on is creating actual characters and exploring their humanity, which is what any great film has to do. And I think she definitely succeeded in doing this because as a viewer, I cared much more about the characters and their experiences rather than the horror aspects of the film. And that's another thing she talks about. She didn't want to make Raw to scare people. She just wanted to tell this strange, layered story. And that brings me to my second reason, which is all of the layers this film has. Raw is the kind of film that can be enjoyed from the horror and cannibalism perspective if that's what you're looking for, but what I think is much more interesting is digging into all of the things that Julia Ducournau wanted to say here. It's pretty easy to see the coming-of-age sexual awakening themes and a very literal representation of love and lust being feelings that consume, but it also says a lot about growing as a person. It's not an accident that Justine is an excellent student, but while she is very smart, she's also naive and inexperienced and very sheltered. She may know a lot when it comes to school, but life isn't something you can learn from a book, and she really doesn't know herself and spends a big portion of the movie just following what other people tell her to do. The director also has some strong opinions about what it takes to mature. She doesn't believe anyone grows up by repressing things. The important lesson to learn here is that it's much more valuable to acknowledge the darker parts of yourself and learn to live with them rather than suppressing them or pretending the issue doesn't exist and just listening to someone who's telling you to act a certain way. The third thing I want to talk about is the relationship between the two sisters in this film. The sibling dynamic is another important layer of Raw and is probably my favorite thing about this film. We see them fight or argue just as all siblings do, but we also see them be silly and have fun. We see them care for each other while also having their differences, and all of the subtle ways their interactions have some sort of unspoken understanding of the other person. It's a volatile relationship, but they're always going to have each other's back. And I also have to quickly mention the performances here. The two lead actresses are perfect. They really brought those two characters to life. They have amazing chemistry, and I never doubted their relationship. Reason number 4 is, of course, the cinematography. I think anyone who has seen the trailer or even just photos from Raw can tell that the visuals are done with a lot of care and thought. There are some very beautiful shots in Raw. There are also some very emotionally powerful visuals. There are some very deliberate ways the characters and certain things are framed, and of course, this being a horror film, there are certain scenes that will make you uncomfortable. This is actually something I want to address because I've heard all of these rumors about how people were passing out watching this film and how some people were physically ill and how it's so shocking and so gross, and I think some of these are a bit exaggerated. Obviously, Obviously, you may be somebody who has a very weak stomach, and even the thought of someone eating raw meat may get you to react strongly, but in general, this movie isn't really that out there. Yes, there are some disturbing and gross moments in there, but none of it is ever gratuitous. All of the visuals you get are there to serve a purpose. They either reinforce the themes or the story, or both. None of them are in there for shock value, and actually there isn't that much cannibalism in the movie to begin with. At least personally, I was more affected as far as the gross out factor goes by other things in the film, so don't be afraid to see raw because you think it's just going to be nasty for the sake of being nasty. That's definitely not the case here. And the last thing I want to mention is the music. I had to buy the soundtrack immediately after watching the film, and I kind of can't stop listening to it. Every time I hear the music, it just brings me right back to the film and all of the emotions that I experienced watching it. There really isn't much I can say here, but you're going to have to experience it for yourself as you're watching Raw. It's wonderful, it's brilliant, and it fits the film perfectly. That's it for this video. As you can tell, I loved this film, and it's one of those movies for me that the more I think about it, the more I appreciate it. It's definitely a film that stuck with me, and obviously there's more to discuss here, especially if you get into the specifics and the spoilers, so let's talk about it in the comments below. I will link a long interview with the director in the info box for those of you who are interested. She talks a lot more about some of those things I mentioned. It is technically a spoiler-free interview, and you could watch it before watching the movie, but I think you would get a lot more out of it if you watched the film first and you actually knew everything she was referring to. Also, if you're looking for more Wicked Wednesday videos, I will leave a playlist below as well. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up, share it, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. You can also leave recommendations for future Wicked Wednesday videos in the comments below. I hope you're having a great day, and I will see you soon in my next video. Bye!